You are familiar with the famous neighborhoods of New York like Times Square and Chinatown and Wall Street in Lower Manhattan. Then there's Greenwich Village, Washington Square, Central Park. But there is another big fascinating chunk of Manhattan that a lot of visitors don't see, between 34th Street and 14th Street. And we're going to show you the highlights in this movie. In many ways, it's the authentic commercial heart of the city. Just a mile from bottom to top, but we'll take a winding route 3 times longer. So today we're going to take a little walk around Manhattan. We're going to zigzag back and forth, kind of off the beaten track, have a look at the real New York that tourists don't generally pay a lot of attention to. We'll start at Union Square and walk you north to 34th Street, giving you a taste of the real life of New York City. This quick summary reveals the contrasts of this Midtown South. Coffee shops to relax, some famous landmarks, busy shopping streets, Koreatown, Asian imports. There are some characters on the street that you'll meet. Hotel prices are a bit lower here. At the end, we'll have an extended sequence on rush hour at Penn Station, 34th Street. But we start out in a much more quiet zone. George Washington presides over Union Square in the spot where he met the public after the British evacuation in 1783. The farmers market happens all day, year-round, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, from about 8 in the morning until 6 p.m. You can see it's a big hit with the local residents. This park has been here for 200 years, originally called Union Place, the name deriving from the connection of a union of streets, Broadway and 4th Avenue. In that early 19th century, it was quite a rural place with a truck farm nearby. But by the 1870s, this neighborhood became the center of good living with theaters, hotels, and fine restaurants, reflecting the exuberance and energy of the growing city. But by 1900, the fashionable part of the city was moving northward, leaving Union Square as a low-rent, cheap manufacturing area, especially for the garment industry. In recent decades, Union Square has been rejuvenated and has really become one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the city for residences, restaurants, a place to work, and shopping. Notice across the street Paragon Sporting Goods. This is typical of the kind of big shop that you've got in this area, loaded with hard-to-find specialty items. From Union Square, we'll take a little walk up to Gramercy Park and continue up to the Flatiron District and Madison Square Park. Wander a few blocks east as far as 2nd Avenue, which is becoming a booming new residential district. And you will reach Stuyvesant Square, a quiet park that was originally part of the farm of Peter Stuyvesant, the last Dutch governor back in the late 17th century. Now it's a pleasant 4-acre neighborhood park bisected by 2nd Avenue. Continue 4 blocks north towards Gramercy Park, you will pass Pete's Tavern, a famous restaurant and bar. Gramercy Park has a big fence around it because it's private, only for the use of those residents of the neighborhood, a very exclusive enclave of old money. Also on the square, you'll find the National Arts Club in a distinctive building. It's open to the public. There's a small art gallery, and you can visit several of the rooms. The mission of this private club is to stimulate and educate the public in the fine arts. The mansion was originally the home of Samuel J. Tilden, who ran for president after Ulysses Grant and won the popular vote, but lost in the Electoral College. Walking along 21st and 22nd Streets, we'll be heading north another block to the Flatiron District and Madison Square Park. Flatiron is a sharp-angled triangular building at the scissor-like intersection of Broadway and 5th Avenue, facing Madison Square Park, which was named after President Madison. The restaurant chain Shake Shack started here, and because of its gourmet, affordable hamburgers, has expanded to nearly 150 locations. Eataly is another astonishing food success. Founded in Italy in 2007 as a kind of food megastore, it has rapidly been expanding. combining elements of a high-end food court, a European street market, and an American supermarket. The obelisk monument in the park is a memorial to General William Jenkins Worth, hero of the Mexican War. This 6-acre park was opened in the mid-19th century, and aristocratic mansions were built all around it. It later became an entertainment and office district, and it is still a thriving area. Looking up Fifth Avenue provides some nice views of the Empire State Building. The popular City Bike program has one of its 700 station racks here, and we had a chance to see them manipulating. They have to relocate the bikes to even out the distribution and availability. Now we're going to walk a while along the streets and avenues of the mid-20s in this lower Midtown section. Sometimes called Midtown South, it's an area that a lot of tourists never get to, but it's fascinating. There's a raw mix of downbeat and upscale here, all mixed together. There are 10 million stories in the city, and this is one of them, from the bubble salesman who was having difficulty getting a permit, losing some money that he's been trying to get back.
So these lawyers got on the case, right? There's a gang of them down there. They do these cases, right? They get back millions and millions of dollars, and you know they make tons of money. Yeah, he said, don't worry, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get you that money back. But they overcharged me.
Oh, got it.
It was $1,000.
Can I record this?
Yeah. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. See what I'm saying? They sell better in the sun.
This bubble guy is gonna get his money. These few blocks north of Madison Square Park are sometimes called NoMad, north of Madison. It's one of those pockets of the city that just do not have a clearly defined name or label to it. It overlaps with the garment district, with Koreatown. In mid-20th century, this was quite an industrial area, a lot of manufacturing going on, especially of clothing. And now it's becoming a lot more retail and residential, with discount clothing stores along 6th Avenue. Continuing north along 6th Avenue a few blocks up to 32nd Street, which is a great example of a fascinating neighborhood that most tourists never get to because it's just a bit south of what is normally considered Midtown Manhattan. 34th Street is often the lower boundary for many visitors, where you've got Macy's and Herald Square, as we'll show you in a moment. But just a couple blocks south of there, you get this busy commercial street that's loaded with all kinds of Asian goods. It's Koreatown, which also spills north a few blocks above 34th Street, with lots of hard-working Korean merchants. And of course a lot more, with a big cosmopolitan mix in this heart of the city. This brings up an interesting question. What do we call this part of Manhattan? It's not only Koreans, it's not really Midtown, which is more like starting about 34th Street and on up to 59th Street at Central Park. It's not Lower Manhattan, because that's below 14th Street. It's kind of an ill-defined area, but the emerging consensus seems to be, let's call it Midtown South. Realtors and commercial brokers like that name because it gives it a certain pizzazz, and this is definitely an up-and-coming neighborhood. The whole stretch we've been showing you between 14th Street and up to 34th Street. While there are still affordable places to eat and good shopping bargains here, residential rents have gone up, now slightly above the Manhattan average, because it's a desirable neighborhood to live. Cafe R is a large hot food buffet that's a decent place for a quick and relatively inexpensive lunch or a meal anytime. They never close. It's an international food court and makes another reason for you to explore 32nd Street. Or how about a merchandise store where you can find a wide variety of stuff for $1? Like this bin of socks. You can see that New York does not have to be an expensive place to visit, especially down here in Midtown South. In addition to walking along 32nd Street, if you like this kind of nitty-gritty urban life, then you might also walk along 31st Street and 33rd Street, 30th Street. All of these parallel streets in the lower 30s are quite similar and fascinating. That cluster of trees is Greeley Square between 32nd and 33rd Street at 6th Avenue and Broadway. You really might be surprised to see in New York City so many little parks, so many pedestrian malls, and little oases of tranquility in the midst of this really busy city. But they've done a great job in New York. They've closed off a lot of lanes to traffic and put out cafe tables and made it a really comfortable place to live and work. 20 years ago, these spaces were just neglected and wasted, but now they're taking full advantage of this prime real estate and turning it into a park in the middle of the city. You can always find delis and buffets to get a reasonably priced meal, and it's pretty tasty and fresh. Walk another block east on 33rd Street over to 5th Avenue. An example of the amazing new condominium high-rise construction that's going on in this Midtown area. It's really being revitalized. It's a lot of fun continuing east along 33rd, and you're going to run into some very inexpensive foods. Look at this, 2 eggs on a roll for $1. Wow. Or a big sandwich for $5 or $6, and these guys are open 24 hours. Cheese dog, fish sandwich, corn dog, cheese fries, but no papayas. You'll find all kinds of inexpensive places to eat in Midtown South. The #1 iconic building of New York, the Empire State Building, 102 stories. Completed in 1931, it was the tallest building in the world until 1970. Continuing east to Madison, where you'll see some very upscale residential condos with rooftop terraces. This is strictly for the multimillionaires. Back at ground level, we're returning west along 34th Street, heading towards Macy's and Herald Square at the corner of 34th and Broadway. Macy's has been at this location since 1902, where it now occupies a full city block with 10 floors and over 2 million square feet of sales area. The block of Broadway in front of it has been closed off to automobile traffic and transformed into a pedestrian mall. And there's a convenient subway station on the corner with 2 major lines running through it. This neighborhood along 34th Street is one of the busiest retail sections of the city, with Macy's serving as a big anchor to lure the shoppers in. Until now, the movie has stayed between 14th Street and 34th Street, that area of Midtown South. But for a minute, let's go north to 35th and 36th and have a look at how Broadway has been enhanced by more pedestrian zones. The city closed off 2 lanes of traffic and made open space for people to sit at tables and chairs, and this goes all the way up to Times Square. It's an amazing transformation. They've only left 1 lane for automobiles. There's even a farmer's market in what had been a couple of lanes of busy Broadway traffic. It brings a refreshing kind of a rural vibe to these blocks, with tons of fresh produce and baked goods and fruits, and you can also buy sandwiches and other prepared foods to sit down and eat lunch right on the spot, and do a little outdoor shopping for clothing while you're at it. Of course, there are many retail shops along the streets in this part of busy Midtown. Wandering a little further east on 36th Street, you'll soon come to the Morgan Library and Museum at the corner of Madison. They usually have excellent special exhibits happening. It's worth taking a look. The Morgan also has a small permanent collection and beautiful rooms that you can walk through. It would be worthwhile alone just to go see Mr. Morgan's library. Originally the private mansion of J.P. Morgan, it's been expanded and modernized into this lovely museum that's open to the public. We have a separate movie about the museums of New York, and you'll find that art is all around you as you walk through the streets of the city. Maybe it's a young art student doing a project sitting down on the sidewalk. Just be careful where you sit. It's a place that's always under construction and renovation. The city is constantly reinventing itself. Notice how nonchalant the people on the sidewalk are as this stack of lumber is carefully threaded through them. New skyscrapers have gotten taller and skinnier in recent years. There are nearly 2,000 coffee shops throughout New York City, with a big concentration here in Midtown. You're also going to find a lot of camera shops here in Midtown that look professional. They seem to have a big inventory and a good variety. Prices are posted, but not the best place to buy camera gear.
Instead, you can go to B&H, probably the largest and best camera shop in the world, and my personal favorite store. Perhaps you've seen their website, which is a great place to buy audio-video camera gear, but there's nothing like being here in the actual shop itself. It's quite a thrill for a techno geek to be surrounded by such a big variety of high-quality items with knowledgeable salespeople. Located just west of Madison Square Garden at 9th Avenue between 33rd and 34th Street. You're going to see these sales guys on nearly every corner selling tickets for the open-top bus, which is a good way to have a 3-hour tour of the city. The Hotel Pennsylvania, across from Madison Square Garden, is a well-known budget hotel. It's 100 years old, and when it first opened, it was the largest hotel in the world. It's still huge, with nearly 1,700 rooms, recently renovated. If you're going to Boston or Washington, there are some very cheap bus rides that you can get. For example, $20 one way or sometimes $30. There's about 10 different companies that offer this kind of service. Just Google it and book online. They have different pickup points throughout the city. This one is near Penn Station. Located in the same building as Madison Square Garden, Penn Station is a phenomenally busy place, with about 600,000 passengers a day, making it the busiest passenger transportation hub in the Western Hemisphere. While several subway lines go through Penn Station, the main rail traffic is to the suburbs and intercity, operated by Amtrak and the Long Island Railroad. Most of the people you'll see in the next few minutes are commuters just heading home, probably on a 1-hour train ride out to the suburbs. It's what you might call rush hour. Penn Station has 21 tracks and is at the center of the Amtrak Northeast Corridor, with lines connecting to Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington. But most of these people are heading out to the suburbs on Long Island and New Jersey. The tracks and station are running at full capacity, so there are plans for expansion. They're going to have a new Penn Station across the street in the former post office building, and they'll eventually be doubling the number of tracks. Life for the New York worker who commutes home every day out to the suburbs is quite a bit different than the typical tourist experience in New York. Visitors have that luxury of staying put in Midtown or some nice hotel that's centrally located and don't have to worry about fighting these crowds at rush hour. If you ever thought that living in New York would be a glamorous and exciting life, consider this. Perhaps it's pretty difficult. Rents in Manhattan are among the world's highest, so you would probably be commuting out to the suburbs like this every day. However, you might be using Penn Station on arrival or departure from New York. Just try and avoid this rush hour crowd if you can. There's direct service out to Newark Airport, or perhaps you're arriving by train from Boston or Philadelphia or Washington, so you just might be coming through Penn Station yourself. Another option to consider if you have a long layover at Newark Airport, let's say, or 10 hours between planes, you could take the train in from Newark Airport to Penn Station. It just takes about a half an hour, and walk around in Midtown for a few hours, then easily take the train back out to the airport to catch your flight. Or if you want to enjoy some people watching, just stand here at the corner of 7th Avenue and 33rd Street at the afternoon rush hour from 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock. You'll see lots of New Yorkers streaming by. That completes our look at Midtown South, the area between 14th Street and 34th Street. As you've seen, it's a part of the city that's not heavily visited by tourists, but it would certainly be worth your while. We're going to leave you here on the corner with the New York faces streaming by. Look for the rest of our New York movies in our collection.